Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the rebranded NBA show here at Guerrilla Sports called Off Court. I'm actually joined by a very special guest. This is like the first ever rebrand, and we have maybe one of the coolest Denver Nuggets reporters in the building, Katy Winge, joining me to talk all things 2024-2025 schedule. We were just talking about how short the NBA offseason is.
It's crazy. Well, first and foremost, thank you. Honored to be on the show for
Yay.
the first edition of
Yes.
Off Court. Amazing, incredible. Love your work.
Thank you
Can't
so
say enough
much.
great things about
Thank
you
you.
and following you and all the content that you put
Thank
out there.
you.
You're such a
we
stud.
have fun. We have
Yeah,
fun. And
yeah.
I'm definitely, I like to troll a little bit, as you've seen.
I love
Gotta
it.
humble the Lakers fans a little bit.
Do it for the plot, you know?
Right.
Do it for the plot.
I think I wake up most days and I'm like, how can I stir the pot up? How can I raise a little hell?
Yeah.
How can I? Yeah. So, and Lakers fans just make it really easy. So they're typically my target. They make it.
Understandably so.
Yeah. So the season is like right around the corner.
It is.
Meaning your social life is super about to end. Are
Or
you prepared
begin.
for that?
Or
Right.
begin.
Or begin.
However you want to look at it.
How are you feeling based on, I think we can all agree that the end of last season was not what we wanted, especially coming off of a championship year that I'm sure was probably the coolest thing ever to be a part. I'm literally getting goosebumps when I think about it. It was the coolest thing ever. How are you feeling as we approach the 2024-2025 season? Are you feeling like what we saw, maybe some of the sadness that Nuggets fans felt after this most recent postseason? Are you feeling a little more optimistic? Like we're turning things around in Denver?
Well,
Turning things around because
is
truly
funny.
it is funny.
You can't win a championship every single season.
Right. But
Which
wouldn't it be fun?
It would be so much fun. It would be unreal if that were the case. And so I think I kind of left last season with that perspective in mind of like, we are coming off one of, the most epic Nugget seasons of all time,
Yes.
if not the most epic. Highest of highs.
It really
Absolute
was.
highest of highs. And you hope that you can live atop that mountain for as long
Forever.
Like you
Yes,
could build a
forever.
nice, comfy, cozy cabin up
Correct.
there.
I would love
and
that.
never leave. However, I just don't think that that's super realistic.
It's not.
So much fun winning a championship. Such a short off season. It felt like the celebrations like really didn't end for the team. Like
They just
watching
kinda
them
rolled over.
and they went to different places.
Yeah.
Like it turned into like this worldwide celebration. And then there was all this chatter about, becoming the hunted instead of the hunters. That was like the phrase of last season. And I'm interested to see kind of what the mentality is coming into this season now.
Yeah.
Because this Nuggets team, ever since, Michael Malone took over and it's kind of been Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, and friends assembled, they have thrived when they have been underdogs.
It's almost like when they weren't underdogs anymore, it was like their slow demise. That's how it felt.
It did feel a little bit like that.
100%.
And I will say, I still don't think, being the reigning champs last year, that they necessarily got the respect and honor that they deserved. However, there were some flowers given out.
Of course.
So I do think that now they've tasted what it's like to be the very best. And they got that snatched away from them.
Yes,
So
they did.
now it is...
And we got it snatched away from us.
Correct. If you're a Nuggets fan, that's absolutely
As Nuggets
accurate.
fans
Yes.
and Nuggets reporters and watchers and whatever, it felt like it was ripped away from the Mile High City altogether.
Well,
really,
I mean, that's what happens when you win and then you lose.
it's hard, and it really is. I think they say this a lot, that like the target on your back just gets very big when you become the best. And I think it also didn't help that the Nuggets, when they won the championship, they won it very convincingly. Like it just looked like a breeze, and it was like, okay, this is the best run we've ever seen by a Denver Nuggets team, and maybe by an NBA team in some time. Like it was just a cakewalk, it felt like. And I think we saw that a little bit with the Celtics this season as well. And so, yeah, I think when you're not only the best, but like convincingly the best, the target, 1 second people aren't talking about the Nuggets at all. and then the next second it's like, okay, I don't like them very much because that came out of nowhere.
Yes, and I think people started immediately speaking to like, well, was that a fluke?
And I hate that
but
word.
That's okay. It's
oh,
okay.
I hate that
like,
word,
let
but it's
them
true.
talk. Let them talk, and let's see what the response is like. Because again, there's a reason that it is so difficult to go back to back.
Very hard.
Why it's so hard, and why so few teams have done it. And so, I don't think that being the first championship in Denver Nuggets franchise history, I don't think there's a way to prepare for that. I don't think there's a way to prepare to run it back. Until you've experienced it. And now having experienced it, having a championship under your belt, you know what it takes, you know how to get there.
Yep.
With, a season of loss in between.
Yeah. So
What's
was the losing season maybe exactly what they needed?
If you're not going to win it all, yeah.
I mean, yeah, come on.
So I think, you can, are you a positive Polly or are you a negative Nancy? You can look at it and you can take, if you want to make it, if you want, and that's totally fair. We're human. We all have those
emotions. Depends on the basketball game, I think. Some games I'm like, what is going on?
What is happening here?
Other games I'm like, we're good. We're chilling.
If you want to find positives in the season last year, I think you can. If you want to look at it and say they didn't accomplish what they wanted to accomplish, I think you can do that too. So the perfect recipe is taking that hunger and that drive, learning from what worked and what didn't, and applying that towards running after another championship.
And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping they run after it. We've got the schedule.
Sure do.
22 national televised games, which at one point would have been like, whatever, who cares? But for a long time, it was like, why aren't we able, like, the Nuggets need to be watched more. This is a good basketball team. So kind of cool. They had the same amount of nationally televised games last year, but the 6th most in the NBA, which again, Denver's been a small market for quite some time. So kind of cool to see them climbing up the rankings in terms of getting the flowers.
The marquee games.
Getting some of the recognition that they deserve. How do you feel about teams not playing the day before or the day after these high-profile national televised games? What is your immediate reaction to that?
I mean, in theory, it's great. Will it actually change anything? Don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You're trying to get your stars to guarantee play on those nights. Those cannot be rest nights. I don't know if it's necessarily going to really matter.
Right.
Given the schedule, the circumstance. If there's bumps and bruises, I don't think they really care.
Yeah.
Where the game is being aired.
Right. No, I agree with that. And I always find it interesting too, like high profile. What makes it high profile? Is it because LeBron James is on the court? We don't care clearly about the winning record teams because Denver's had that for some time now and are finally just now getting some recognition. We know what high profile means. It means Steph Curry's on the floor, LeBron James is on the floor. So it's got to be really nice for the teams that have those high profile players alongside them because they may get that day of rest before and after. But to your point, is it really going to make a difference? I mean, we know how They play a lot of basketball games.
They play a lot of basketball games.
A lot of wear and tear on the bodies.
I know. I always, I think of Kobe Bryant in those situations often because, the brighter the lights, the more Kobe wanted to play. And he just had that mentality of like, I want to show off when I can show off and do my thing. And I feel like that's maybe a little bit more of a lost art in today's NBA.
I would agree with you.
So I hope that, Nikola Jokic is a walking example of like, I want to play every single game if I'm available and healthy and able. I just don't know if you have to be smart. You have to be smart. If you want to win a championship, you do. You have to be a little bit more cautious.
Kind of strategic too, in a way.
I agree.
Which is very hard. And what's your... you just brought up Nikola Jokic, and I don't actually have that many notes to talk about him today because what's there to talk about? He's phenomenal. He's the GOAT of the current, I know LeBron James still exists, I'm aware, but the future to me, the GOAT is Nikola Jokic. He is exceptional in so many ways. What's your response? How funny do you think it is when you see people online talking about how Nikola Jokic doesn't care about basketball? Is that just like hilarious to you? Because
Yes.
you get to
Yes.
see not only Nikola Jokic, but you get to see how this team operates behind scenes and the
Yeah.
work that they have to truly put in. Nikola Jokic didn't just wake up and get great. I mean, some of it, yes, we know God-given talent, that
Yeah.
is definitely a thing. But how funny is that statement to you when you hear that?
It he cares so much that it's like, how do you think that? And you watch the way he plays and the way that he dissects and dominates, and
He's one of one.
but he makes it look like it comes so easy to him.
Do you think that's what rubs people the wrong way?
I do.
I
do.
agree.
I think, yeah. And I think it's hard because people are almost punishing him for like kind of having a work-life balance.
100%. I think I tweeted one time a while ago. I was like, people are angry that he doesn't make basketball his entire personality. Like,
Yes.
God forbid
There's
he
more
wants to
to
go
him.
spend time with his wife and his beautiful daughter
Yeah.
and go back to his home country and do things that fill him with joy outside of basketball. Like, it's almost like they want to punish Nikola Jokic for not making basketball his entire personality.
The narrative is just flat out false.
It's crazy.
It's flat out false that he doesn't care, because he cares immensely. And being able to watch him more closely than most, seeing the work that he puts in. I mean, even like looking at how he's been able to transform his body and like become more and more of an athlete, and making that a priority, and working with the Nuggets strength and conditioning staff, and working out after every single game, and really being a master of his routine.
He's like perfecting his craft.
Exactly.
Every day.
Every
I
day.
imagine.
And just because it's not, how your guy does it doesn't mean it's the wrong way. There's more than one way to be a winner. There's more than one way to have success and to find success. And I think it's funny.
It's hilarious.
Funny.
I've
that
started to
it's-
I think at one point those statements about Nikola Jokic used to make me mad. 'Cause
Yeah.
I was like, but then I was like, okay, I'm just going to kick back and let Nikola Jokic does what Nikola Jokic does, because the
1,000%.
proof is in the pudding. I
Yep.
don't know how you really can't argue anymore the impact that he has on the game and the impact he has on this team. So at this point, I'm just going to let his ball do the talking,
Yeah.
because at this point, you can't argue with stupid.
You cannot.
I've learned this. And if you try to argue with stupid, you'll just be on Twitter all day long, and it's just no fun. It's no fun.
It's not. Speaking of work-life balance, it's no way.
Exactly. Got to hang up the phone, hang it up, turn
Yep.
it off.
Yep.
So we've got 7 of the first 10 games are at home. 7 of the last 10 games are home. However, the Nuggets at one point, known to defend home court exceptionally well, didn't seem to matter against the Timberwolves. What happened there? And was it a fluke? I know we don't like that word.
I know.
Was it a fluke, or are we going to get the Nuggets back that know how to defend home court? Because at one point, I didn't even worry. If we played at home, I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're good.
In the bag.
We're
In the
solid.
bag.
And against the Timberwolves, didn't matter that much.
You know what though? It was a league-wide phenomenon during the playoffs a little bit
was.
of like home court really not making the impact that everyone
Yeah.
thought it would or that it had in
Yeah.
the past.
Agreed.
People were winning. I mean, teams were winning games on the road and losing games at home left and right, it felt like. I will always be in favor of the Nuggets playing at home. I will always be more confident of the Nuggets when they play at home, regardless of what the past says, regardless of maybe a little hiccup
Yeah, it was
here
a hiccup,
or there.
for sure.
I mean, you've got altitude in your favor. Like, I know people say that that's not real. I do kind of think it's real.
It's super real.
I-
Well, where did you live before Colorado?
Minnesota.
So you felt it.
I do. I
Yeah.
understand
And
the
you're
difference.
very outdoorsy. You're very
Yep.
athletic.
Yep.
So you've trained your whole life. It is very different. It's
Yeah.
like sucking air through a straw.
Yeah,
When
it's-
you're doing basic, normal.
Yeah, and
mundane
these are
things.
like, the best of the best in terms of
course.
athletes. So they probably don't feel it as much, but I do think if you can get out and run, that leads to certain advantages in
Of
the
course.
games.
Red Rocks do a little. I saw them training
Yeah,
at
they
Red
did.
Rocks
They did
recently.
the annual Red Rocks
Looking
workouts.
good.
Mhm.
Love it.
But no, I think the Nuggets will be as dominant at home as they've ever been. I don't
Great.
foresee that being any different than it has been in the past. Yep.
Love
Yep.
it. Okay, so we talked a little bit already about last season. To me, some of the big issues were fatigue. I'm going to be honest. The Nuggets started the postseason this year, and I truly I didn't have the sparkle. I couldn't see the sparkle that I
Yeah.
saw the year before. And in all fairness, they really didn't get much of an off season. Their off season was extremely short. Like you said, the celebration just kind of rolled into the next season, and it was like, well, here we are. We got to do it all over again, and that's very difficult. Obviously, there were some injuries as well. Are you at all concerned? I've spoken about this a little bit on this show. I personally, and this is just me as being a watcher of the sport and trying my best to remove my bias, there was a few concerns for me with Jamal Murray. Obviously, he was injured, and that's something that we've seen him battle throughout his career. Do you worry at all about the fact that, because I know he's been a popular name on Twitter as of late with the Olympics and not performing as well as I think people had imagined he would. Are you worried at all about the fact that he just lost an off season in Paris? And we know he's injured often and was just recently battling injury that I think he was probably trying to shake off, like it wasn't as big of a deal as it maybe was. Are you at all worried about him losing an off season and maybe not being able to shake the injury, or do you think it was maybe good for him to keep playing in his off season?
I think it's essential that he does whatever he needs to do right now to get as healthy as humanly possible.
So this is an important month, right? This very minute.
2 months, 3 months.
Okay.
He absolutely was hurting more than he spoke of, I would say. And not making excuses for him, that, you know, his choice to continue to kind of play through some of that pain, and I respect him for it. I really do. He 1,000% understands that his contributions are a major factor in this team's success. Huge. And he knows that. And to me, this is one of those situations where you have to be smart with him throughout the entire season. I'm not just talking about right now. I'm just talking about the beginning of the season. You have to make sure that he is doing whatever he needs to do to make sure his body is in the best shape possible come playoff time. Yeah. And he is the playoffs, I feel like. He sets the tone for the playoffs for this Denver Nuggets team. And I spoke a little bit about the fact that, like, okay, maybe the injury is worse than we think it is, but if it's making Jamal Murray, of all people, Murray have a scoreless first half, he shouldn't be out there. Like, I'm now, then I was going in my brain like, okay, if he's that injured, he shouldn't play. But if he doesn't play, what do we look like out there? I still think an injured Jamal is better than
right? It's like, is an injured Jamal better than no Jamal at all? Yeah, probably.
It is.
But also, I felt like there's a level of, even as fans, we feed off of him so much in the playoffs. Like, we just know he knows how to activate that something that just, he can light it up so quickly. But when he's not on, it also feels like it sucks the energy out of the room. Truly. And that's a lot of pressure on one guy. But when he's been so exceptionally great in the postseason many times before, you just kind of hold him there. You're like, if you're not here, then what are you doing? And that's a lot of pressure. I did have a few concerns watching the Olympics, going, okay, he's not in his normal form still. Like, should we start being worried? Is this the new era of Jamal that we should be freaking out about? But I do think maybe, and that's kind of my next conversation with you, is a Russell Westbrook ad going to alleviate some of the pressure that he puts not only physically on his body, but mentally, knowing, as much as I loved Reggie Jackson, it was a very different game when it was Jamal minutes versus non-Jamal minutes.
Totally.
Do you think that Russell Westbrook can maybe buffer that a little bit
and
provide some support for
What's
Jamal?
funny about that is, like, I think that's a lot of pressure to put on Russell Westbrook.
Of course. Yeah. You're feeling Jamal Murray's shoes, by the way, off the bench. I know,
like, you saying, like, is he going to come in and make it easier on Jamal? Like, yeah. But number one, based on what you were just discussing, I don't know if it's necessarily fair to look at Jamal's performance in the Olympics and grade that for who he is.
I'm glad you're saying that, because I did start to a little bit.
You are 1,000% better when you're playing alongside Nikola Jokic. Every single player is.
He's the most valuable player.
So
I just, better.
Yes, I think that there's, like, Jokic draws so much attention that Jamal gets to be his best self when he's playing alongside Jokic. It's hard to take any notes from a situation like the Olympics where you're thrown in with a bunch of new guys. Very talented roster. but it's a new system. It's new guys. You're in a different position. There are a lot of extenuating circumstances that like you're not, totally in rhythm there.
Totally.
And you kind of maybe stack health on top of that. I think it was important from a pride standpoint, probably for Jamal to play for Team Canada in the Olympics. You don't want to pass an opportunity like that up.
No, and you really can't. I mean, it's like every 4 years, it's an honor. Yeah.
Whether he was 100% or not. I mean, it's one of those things where, okay, now what are you doing? What are you working on? How are you getting your body right? But I'm not as concerned as a lot of people are about him. I really am not.
I'm happy to hear you say that because I'm just being fully transparent here. I was super concerned, only because I just know how important he is, and I felt like truly watching the Nuggets last season, I just didn't see. Yeah. Once you've seen what we saw,
without a doubt,
when they won the championship,
without a doubt,
anything less than that, and it's not even their skill. They were winning games in the regular season. They were doing fine. They were sitting atop the Western Conference. They were doing their job. It just didn't feel
the same. It didn't.
And is it ever going to feel the same as the first time you ever win a championship? Probably not. It's going to always feel a little bit different. But there was that spark and that energy that they had where I just felt so calm. The postseason that the Nuggets played in when they won the championship, I was just calm. There were very few times I got rattled and felt like, are they going to be able to do it? It was just like, they're going to do it. Yeah. I just know they're going to do it. And so, and huge part of that is Jamal Murray. Yep. He just takes away a lot of stress. Whereas this postseason, I felt like he added some, a little bit. As a fan, you watch him and you're just like, he's in rare form. This is not him. We did know he was injured, but then you get the buzzer beater and you're like, oh, there's Jamal.
There he is.
So it felt very back and forth. It felt very like it was an emotional roller coaster with him. And then to see him in the Olympics, which, like you said, so many different factors play into the way that he performed or didn't perform. But yeah, I was a little stressed. But I also think, again, once you've tasted victory that sweet, you're probably a little tougher on the team.
Well, and he sets his standards so high. He sets his standards so high because that's how great he can be. And he knows it, and everyone else has seen it, and they know it too. To your point about Westbrook, my hope for Russell Westbrook is that he can come in because, let me backtrack here for just a second. I think we see the best Jamal Murray when the right roster is constructed around him. And you think about, what that championship roster looked like and what Bruce Brown was able to contribute. I mean, what Jeff Green was able to contribute. There were a lot of, your stars are going to shine when you're winning and when you're, chasing a championship, but like your role guys have to be like chef's kiss, almost perfect,
which is a lot to ask
in their role, a star in their role. So when it comes to Russell Westbrook, that is my hope for him, is to be a star in his role. That will be starting some games, I'm sure. But more than anything, the Nuggets need some depth because you're talking about
bench to be
solid, and you need some support from the standpoint of you don't want to have to play your starters into the ground. You cannot afford to play your starters into the ground this season. I think that's something that the coaching staff, Michael Malone, and just the Nuggets organization in general learned from last year is like, yes, we want to be able to put our best foot forward as many games as possible, but at what cost? Yeah. At what cost? So can Russell Westbrook come in and lead a second unit of young, raw players? And one of the things I absolutely adore about Russell Westbrook's game is how hard he plays.
He plays
all
so
the
hard.
time. He is such a competitor, and he sets that tone. And if that can be contagious within that second unit,
and I think it can.
Sign me up.
I just got goosebumps.
Guys,
I am so emotional. Why do the Nuggets make me emotional? It's actually the most pathetic thing in the world. Like my mom, I don't think I was worried about my mother's mental health. Yeah. Like to this day, if I say anything about this most recent postseason, she's like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm going to get emotional. I'm like, okay, well, here's the deal, Mom. They're grown men. They're competitors. They are probably just as irritated by it as you are. Yeah. And so there's a bounce back near. I can feel it. Like we're on the right track. I did want to ask you because I heard some whisperings about Jokic actually going to the front office to declare interest in Russell Westbrook being a Denver Nugget. Where's the validity in that? Do we have any?
So I have no confirmation that ever happened.
Okay.
From the people that I know, the people that I'm around. That's not to say that it didn't happen, but knowing Nikola Jokic, I find it very hard to believe that he, while he was in Sombor, went out of his way to pay attention to everything that's going on and
feel
was like, I want this guy. Like, to me, it seems much more believable that it was like, hey, what do you think about us getting Russell Westbrook? Sounds good.
Very
and then
short
that turned
sweet.
into and then that turned into he's advocating, he's fighting,
he
went to him, he called him,
he
all
went
these
to
things.
war for Russell
And,
Westbrook.
again, like, I could be totally off base here. I'm just speaking from like my intuition and like being around the team. This is pure speculation, but that seems much more believable to me. Of like, let me just run this by you really quick and make sure that that's a guy that you would be okay with us pursuing.
Yeah.
And him saying, yeah, okay, that's a guy. Like Westbrook got Jokic a present at All-Star for his birthday way back when. Like, I know they have a great relationship. I know they have a good rapport. I know that there's a lot of respect between the two games and how competitive they are as humans.
Triple double.
Yeah.
Triple double kings in their own respective right.
Sure are.
I mean, this could be really a magical thing. And I've been very much a fan of the Westbrook and Denver thing since day one, mostly because of everything you just said, which is, I think the few things that we're missing from the bench are a sense of urgency, energy, and athleticism. Not that they don't have that. They do. But I think they need a veteran that can pull that out of them in times where, hey, we may be down 20 points against the Lakers in a playoff game. Guess what? We're still in it. You know, you need that. And that was maybe my concern with losing KCP was I felt like he just had this cool, calm, collected energy about him. He felt like a silent leader. You know, people just respected him in a way where he didn't have to always be talking, but his presence alone and leading by example, being a reliable 3-and-D guy for this team, I think that they fed off of that in a way. So losing him felt very concerning to me. I was a little upset about it.
I think it's a bigger deal than it was made. I truly do. I think
it hurt my heart a lot.
Being in huddles and like being around the team in timeouts and listening in and that sort of thing, such a privilege that I'm able to have. And he was one of the most vocal leaders. I love that. Setting the tone, the way he played, what he said, the way he was able to communicate with guys. Everything about him is just like the most immaculate pros pro, like to a T. Coaches loved coaching him, players loved playing with him. Like, don't underestimate the value of him and what it's going to do. However, I do think Christian Braun is ready.
Okay, that's good to hear.
But I think that if that's the route that they choose to go, which there are options and there's going to be a fight for that spot and all the things. I think Christian Braun can really thrive in that, not having to be more than what they're asking him to be. I think he will fit in seamlessly. I think he will. I mean, he's not going to go out and score 20 points a night, but you don't need him to do that. You don't need him to do that. I think his 3-point shooting needs to get better. I think he knows that you need to be a threat from out there. Like KCP obviously was shooting a ridiculously high clip, and you have to stretch the defense if you're closing out to KCP a lot more than closing out to Christian Braun, just based off of last year's numbers. So there's an awareness there. But this is going to be, we need to just like start tallying right now. Russell Westbrook, because
it's a mouthful.
It is so ridiculously hard to say.
It is.
Without messing it up.
I usually just call him Westbrook.
Like
I think because I get like
Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard. We're just going to start calling him Westbrook.
I know.
Yeah, because that just feels easier.
With Westbrook, one of the things he's so good at is getting downhill. And if he can, you speak to the urgency of the bench. You speak to the athleticism of the bench. Like, they're at their best when they can defend at a high level and they can run. And you can get guys the ball in positions to be successful. And that's different for every single guy coming off of that bench. Different for Peyton Watson, different for Julian Strawther, different for whoever else it is that's going to fill in those roles. I think Westbrook is going to know these guys well enough and understand, like, I am the facilitator. I run the second unit. I am going to make sure that every player is thriving.
Love it.
What does that look like? To be determined. But that is my hope, my wish.
I agree. And do you think that I think we should always keep it realistic as Nuggets fans. You know, it's so easy to, just as sports fans, period, it's so easy to, I mean, listen to me. If you guys go on my Twitter right now, you'll find that based on my tweets alone, you would think that I think the Broncos are winning the Super Bowl just off of 2 preseason wins. Okay, so I am the first person to get ahead of myself, get excited. But again, you kind of have to think glass half full sometimes, just to keep yourself, just to make it through, okay? Just to survive what it is to be a Denver sports fan. You have to think that way.
There's a fake it till you make it element. There really is.
100%.
Yep.
Yes, and I felt like I was doing a lot of that last season.
Sure.
A lot of it. And I felt like the year before that, when we had won, there was really no expectation yet of greatness because we had never done it in Denver. So it's like, okay, if we go all the way and we lose, yes, that would stink, but it's not like we'd be having, you know, you just didn't go into it expecting the grandest of grand because we never had the grandest of grand before. So, you know, once the fan bases that start getting almost too many wins under their belt, too many victories, we know how they start behaving on Twitter. You know who you are. I don't even have to say it.
No, we don't need to call them out. They know.
Yeah, I don't need to bring any more attention to you. You have had enough. Yep. But do we think that there will be maybe a few growing pains early on in the season, just getting everybody kind of getting the dust shaken off? And we see that oftentimes with every team. But throwing Westbrook into the mix, do you think there's going to be a little bit of a chemistry?
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Without a doubt. And again, losing KCP is a big part of that.
One.
Losing Reggie Jackson, huge. Like, and people will be like, well, Reggie didn't like perform all that well as a Nugget in general. And that might be true for some, but I mean, he was in the gym all summer with those young guys last summer. So the relationships were already there. They were established. There was a trust that was built. How long is it going to take for that to develop? Who's to say between Russell Westbrook and the new guys? I mean, like, again, fighting for that starting position. What are the rotations going to look like? There's a lot of like, who's going to be the backup center? Like, we were hopeful that Duron Holmes was maybe going to actually get some significant minutes. Just heartbreaking.
Yeah, that one.
It's been really great seeing him around the team though. Like, he was at Red Rocks and amazing. Yes.
Like, is he still?
Yes, he's still going to be around. And that was one of the things that,
good.
you know, they made, both Calvin Booth and Michael Malone made very clear to him, was like, we are you are not on your own here.
You're still on this
you
team.
are on this team. We are in this with you. We will be there every step of the way. I know.
I'm watching a Hallmark commercial.
It's a family.
I am the most emotional woman on the planet. This is
not.
ridiculous.
No,
but I do love that. And I think the other thing I wanted to talk about, and very briefly, but I just feel like so many of these Nuggets players have had tragic family issues, and it could make me seriously start crying just talking about it. We know that MPJ has dealt with his fair share, and what he was dealing with as well was stuff that was like stretched over time. You know, it was like you forgot about it, and then here's another thing, and so that in itself, to have MPJ be as strong and as consistent as he was this year's postseason was phenomenal. And then Aaron Gordon and his brother, and I know that family was very close. They were, every time I was at a game, I have my favorite section. It's 128. I love that section because I can see everything. Yeah. Some of my favorite little snacks are up at the top right above me. That is my section. I love 128, and that's right near where family and friends sit. So I always saw Aaron Gordon's family very close, always supporting and being the loudest people there, which you just love. And so it's my hope that, obviously, no one expects him to get over what he's dealt with in this offseason. And by no means, I'm sure he's still actively dealing with it. But I do feel like if you're going to be on a team and deal with something like this, the Nuggets, as far as I know, has a phenomenal culture where this just really does feel like a family. Yeah. And I'm sure you can speak to that because you're around these guys. And I'm sure it feels like a family even you. I see how they interact with you. It's like, I really think that if you're going to be on a team and have to deal with such really difficult things, I feel like this is the group to have around you.
Yeah. I only have experienced the Nuggets, so I guess I don't have much to compare it to. But like, I do know that there were players and coaches and staff that like flew out for Drew's funeral, like, and everything that, you know, celebration of life. And the way that, you know, they supported Michael Porter Jr. last season, whether, you know, we're here if you need us, we're not if you don't want to address it. It's just, if this is your safe space, if this is your sanctuary, if this is your time away from some of the stuff that you're dealing with, totally get that too. Yeah. So it's kind of like it's there if you need it. I think for so many of these these guys, it's basketball is their escape. And
It's like therapy.
it is. It's their place where they can go and forget about some of the really hard parts of life and the really hard things that so many of us go through as human beings. And
life is hard.
it is. And so I don't, obviously what Aaron has been going through and his family has been going through, I mean, that's something that you maybe never recover from.
Yeah.
Like
ever.
the grief is always there.
I'm a sibling I'm the oldest of 4.
Yeah.
And I really, it felt like heavy to me, and it wasn't even my family for days, if not weeks after that news broke, because I could not imagine having to go perform on the biggest stage ever, you know, and do my job, but also it's the place where I do escape, and it does feel like therapy a lot. I'm just, it's my hope and prayer that any player on this team that has dealt with stuff, but I just feel like it's been a lot in Denver.
It has.
And it's been like very dark, really, really horrible things that I'm sure affect everybody on the team, because that's your guy, you know, that's your brother. And I just love, you know, it's not, they don't just say it. Coach Malone, family on 3, 1, 2, 3 family. And I do feel like they have established that culture. I feel that when I go to games. I feel that when I've talked to some of the players and some of the staff that work there, and it just does. It feels like a strong unit.
Continuity is a very powerful thing. It's very powerful, and consistency and having people show up time and time again and buy into something that's bigger than themselves. And again, you have to credit, you know, at first Tim Connolly and now Calvin Booth for keeping the core
really
together
great.
and having it
easy.
be this group and this family that's fighting and competing and going to battle night in and night out. And there's a reason that they are as close as they are, for sure.
Oh, I just love it. Being a Nuggets fan is just the best.
They're an easy
ever.
team to root for.
They really are. And that's I just actually recently posted a social clip about changing America's football team, because I'm sick of the Cowboys, really am. You know, I'd like America's team to be 1, likable, 2, winning playoff games. So I was like, hey, let's maybe change it up. And my suggestion was the Detroit Lions, which a lot of people were like, excuse me, they have never been a winning franchise. But nobody hates the Lions. You got to find these teams that are
They're
just
a Cinderella
likable.
story. Like people like the personalities, people like the coach. Like there's a lot to latch on to there. I can understand that.
Absolutely. And I feel like the Nuggets are a team, unless you're you know, maybe I would say Lakers fans probably are the one fan base that don't like the Nuggets, because the Nuggets have just dominated. I just feel like the Nuggets are a pretty likable team.
I think so too. They play basketball the right way. If you're a fan of the game of basketball,
There you go.
It's impossible to not like the Denver Nuggets.
And if you're a casual, then you don't like them, and we don't pay no mind to you. So there we go. That's all we have to say on that. But I want to wrap with any hot takes that you have for this upcoming NBA season. It can be a Nuggets hot take. It can be a Western Conference hot take, Eastern Conference, anything that you're like, you've played the sport of basketball. You know this game so well. You are phenomenal at your job. You've watched the ins and out. You know the X's and O's. So based on that, and based on what you've seen in the off season and the conversations you've had with people, is there any hot take prediction that Katy Winge has as we approach the upcoming season?
You know, it's tough, because this is just a general thought. We'll start with this.
Okay.
I think this is going to be like one of the most competitive NBA seasons that we've had in a very long time. And it feels like we've been building.
Yeah.
But people ask me, like, how do you feel about the Nuggets? And I'm like, great. I feel great. Like, the Nuggets are good. They're going to continue to be good. They have the best player in the world. They have phenomenal, like, supporting cast. To me, it's less about the Nuggets and more about everybody else getting better. Everybody else is getting better. Like there is just this
OKC got
competitive
great in the offseason.
nature. The Timberwolves are up, like they just continue to kind of rise.
John Morant's healthy.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
so there are a
it's
lot
getting
of teams
crazy.
that you maybe forgot about or have underestimated. I mean, Dallas obviously making the run that they made. I don't think a lot of people expected that. Sacramento is still very good. Very like there are so many teams that maybe this is the year that they put it together. So it's going to be so fun to watch. And obviously I'm a little bit biased because I watch so much more Western Conference basketball than Eastern Conference basketball.
Well, I will tell you my hot take, and it's not a prediction, but my hot take has been and will remain that the Western Conference to me is by far more fun to watch, more competitive, better in every aspect. Yes, there is a little bit of bias in there, but I have always preferred watching the Western Conference. Something about the West, it's
I know.
Because it really does. I think that in any given season, the West feels like it's anybody's game. Whereas in the East, you really can eliminate the bottom half of the Eastern Conference. You can say, yep, not worried about the Bulls, not worried about the Pistons, not worried about this, that, whatever. But in the West, I feel like it is like, it's a bloodbath, really. You could get any type of Western Conference combination, and at any given moment, you could have a team that just surprises the hell out of everybody.
When I think about the East, I mean, I think Boston, obviously. Yep. Philly. The Knicks are very fun. The Knicks are very fun. I like the Knicks.
I think that the Knicks, to me, are the most fun Eastern Conference team to watch.
I think so, too. And just personality-wise. Like, I like following the players. And that Roommates show is
and now they're like the Nova
Knicks. Yeah,
they're like totally. That's going to be a really fun watch for sure. Yeah.
Indiana is like, they're fun to watch. It's just, there's some good basketball at the top of the East. You're right. It is. And it feels like different styles of basketball. But
it does.
I think the West is to be won. I really do. I think in the East, it's like it is Boston's until someone takes it from them. In the West, there is no number one. It is who is going to make that happen.
Which, like, I can feel already my pulse is increasing. Yeah. My heart rate is going faster because that's what makes it so
fun. It's so fun.
It's so fun, but it is like the nerves that I feel towards that last chunk of the season where it's like, I even felt it this most recent season when it was like, okay, Nuggets, what are we doing? Are we fighting for that one spot? Oh, okay, we just lost in the most brutal fashion to the Spurs.
Yeah, I don't like to talk about that one.
That one, seriously, I had to tell myself. I remember being in the car driving and just going, they did that on purpose, for sure. Yep, that was on purpose. That was a totally planned thing. I had to tell myself that because when I was watching it, I was like, okay, not sure what is happening here. But I had to like talk myself out of like that was intentional, and it wasn't. They were playing basketball. I don't think that this is the type of team to throw any games and not be competitive up until the last moment. But I had to convince myself of that because I was like, what on earth is happening?
That game meant too much. Like when you look at it now from like big picture, like, is that the difference between the Nuggets being in the NBA Finals? Truly, like, is that loss at San Antonio? And again, it's not one game. I'm not naive enough to think that. But if you're like looking for one thing to point it to, it's like, oh,
I've thought it.
If that game is a different outcome, the seeding is different. The teams,
different.
Everything is different. Everything is different. Everything is different.
There were many, many, many times watching the Western Conference where it's funny. The Nuggets got eliminated by the Timberwolves. We know this. I'm not excusing the fact that they weren't able to make it happen. But then I'm watching the Mavs. I'm watching the Western Conference Finals, and I'm going, the Nuggets could have given the Mavs more competition, 100%. And then I'm watching the finals, and I'm going, the Nuggets may have been, in my opinion, the only NBA team that could have hung with the Celtics, even if by this much. I think the Celtics rightfully earned that championship. They, again, felt very similar to the
dominating
Nuggets.
Fashion.
Just a dominating fashion, very convincing. It seemed like a cakewalk. And so, but I watched and I felt like if there was one team that could have made this finals series more competitive and more entertaining and more fun to watch, it would have been the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
But again, can't excuse the fact that they didn't make it past the Timberwolves. I get it. It's like you've got 7 games to do your job. They fell short. I'm not excusing what they did, but yeah, it does make you wonder. That loss against San Antonio when they were fighting for the 1 seed, everything would have looked different.
It would have looked very different. My Nuggets hot take for you is that Jamal Murray is going to be an all-star.
Oh! You know what's crazy? That shouldn't even be a hot take. It really shouldn't, but it
especially
totally
now.
is.
Right now it is.
For years, I have said, this man not being named an all-star is just crazy to me. But now more than ever, you know what? Here's maybe I'm going to feed off of yours and make a hot take here together. This will be our collaborated off-court hot take. You say Jamal Murray all-star year. Love it. To feed off of that, I think that this Nuggets team thrives as underdogs, which we talked about earlier on the show. I think Jamal Murray thrives as underdog. Remember, let me take you guys back for 2 seconds to post towel throw on the court or ice pack, whatever it was. Very out of character moment for Jamal Murray. And I was not excusing his behavior, but I was like, this is not Jamal. I could tell there was some frustration going on. There was he was in his head. He was just not acting like himself. Post that game, when he went to Minnesota, I believe, lights out. When he was getting booed. That was the most reverse Uno card. They were like, we're going to boo him. We're going to make him uncomfortable. And
he's now
like,
the villain. And
that actually did not work well for you guys at all.
Let me just tell you guys something about me being the villain.
Right. And so I think, to your point about him being an all-star this upcoming year, he has had an interesting last few months of basketball where people are like, what is he without Jokic? Is he as great as we thought he was? Was the last 2 years a fluke? Who is Jamal Murray? And I think putting him in that position may be very dangerous for the rest of the NBA, because I just think this Nuggets team does really well either being villainized or lowered or underestimated, undervalued even. So, yeah, I could totally see it. And I think I like having the Nuggets in this spot right now. They went out in not a great way, Game 7.
Bad taste in the mouth. And now we've got a new addition, a veteran that's going to hopefully bring that second unit up in the sense that keep that energy, keep that excitement, that competitive nature, and might just be, I don't know. Dynasties don't just happen in back-to-back years. I think this is a Nuggets team that truly is, that'll be my hot take. I still believe that this Nuggets team is capable of building a dynasty. Amazing.
A very successful one. So that's my hot take. I don't really know if that's even, sometimes they're lukewarm takes.
Well, no, I think
depends on who you ask.
That is hot. And it depends on what you define a dynasty as. It depends on, how much you put in last season. And I mean, this is the window. The window is wide open. And it is, who knows how long it's going to stay open for, especially with the contracts in the NBA and the way that the money is being pushed around. So there is a small, maybe not small, but the window of Nikola Jokic greatness and prime for the core four, I will say. It's here. This is last question before we wrap things up. This may feel like a silly question because it's like, well, no way. But I do think there's probably people that believe what we're seeing from Jokic is as good as it's going to get. Do you believe that what we've seen from Nikola Jokic is as good as he's going to get? Or are we only scratching the surface with Jokic right now? I've stopped thinking that this is as good as it's going to get because I get proven wrong every single time. I'm like, how does he get better? How is it possible for him to get better? And then he goes out and just and does better. It. And I don't really understand, but I'm here for it. I marvel. I'm so grateful for, and that's one of the things that I always talk to Nuggets fans about is you guys can be frustrated. You can be upset. You can be all the things, but don't you for a damn minute allow yourself to not recognize the era in which you are in and what you get to watch every single night. It's an honor. There will never be anything like this again. Well, it's so funny because I will talk to people too after going. It's one thing to watch what Nikola Jokic does on TV. When you are in ball arena, I have tried to explain it to people. If you blink your eyes, you will miss his greatness. It happens like this. The behind the back pass to Jamal Murray. If you blink, you will miss it. Basketball is pretty much, you can get a way better perspective from the couch at home. But when you are in ball arena and you see what he does, so effort. Yes. Collectively of the fans. It is just seriously, it's magic. It really is. There was one, I'm sure you remember it. It was last season it was the year before this most recent season, Pelicans game, Nuggets at home.
and it was down to the flipping wire. And Jokic, I just saw in his eyeballs a moment where it was like a switch was activated, and it was like, we're not losing this game. And I remember it was a very back and forth. I think it was maybe CJ McCollum had a halftime buzzer beater that went in, and it was like insane. Or maybe it was Ingram. But it was a game where it was like, I'm not sure if we're going to win this game. And I think it was towards the end of the season, so we kind of needed the dub. I watched his eyeballs change. I don't know. I can't explain it. But there was something in him that was like, yeah, we're not losing.
We're not.
I just made the executive decision. We're not losing this
I'm
game.
Good. We're good.
And once he put on his superpowers, I was like, oh my gosh. That was maybe the game, too, that I think Aaron Gordon had some insane dunk. I mean, it was just, you could see, though, the impact he has on the whole arena, really. Once Jokic made the decision, we're not losing, Aaron Gordon got better, and PJ got better. I mean, it was just like, oh, okay. Yeah. So it was just a decision that was made, and I was like, all right. Jokic, to me, is borderline superhero status. It's exceptional what he does.
It is. Exceptional doesn't even feel like a big enough adjective. I'm running out of adjectives. I don't know what else. Superlatives, whatever you want to say.
We need a Nikola Jokic dictionary.
I don't know.
New words that we can use to describe him, because it doesn't feel like extraordinary.
That's actually a good bit. I might do that.
I think you should. I absolutely
just
think you should.
Start gathering and putting together
really
like the words that describe Nikola Jokic's greatness.
Please, because
just carry it around with me.
Yeah, because there's really like extraordinary and amazing, and those don't really do him justice anymore. So, well, I am so honored that you are here and you were speaking with me about the Denver Nuggets upcoming season, which is like seriously
a blink away.
It's a blink. It's a it's a behind the back pass to Jamal away. Yes. So it's happening very fast. Katy Winge, I appreciate you for being here, and you are phenomenal at what you do. You have the ability to really make people that watch your content feel like they are in it with you, which is such a superpower in itself. And I'm hoping that you get to relive the high. I mean, you've seen it all.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, you've seen it all. You've been along with them on this journey, and how cool for you to be able to see it at its best. And I'm hoping that we're just a few months away from watching them get back to that version that is just like jaw-dropping. There's really, they make you speechless when they play the game they know how to play. So I appreciate you for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for all the conversations, the hot takes, the predictions. Jamal Murray All-Star season incoming. You heard it here first from Katy Winge. Thank you guys so much for joining us for a new rebranded Off Court. We will be here every week talking all things NBA, Denver Nuggets. So make sure you're tuning in to All Things. Give Katy Winge a follow on All Things. What's your handle?
At Katy Winge, Katy with a Y.
There you go. Love it. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back again soon, and go Nuggets.